only my closest friends know this, but about a year ago today, I went through what I guess you could call a spiritual awakening. Now, you guys might ask, are you still like in that state? Do you still feel like spiritually woke? Not to that extent. Hello, my dear gods and goddesses. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janelle Godin, here with janelleloa. I'm a love attraction coach with a bachelor's degree in psychology. Today I'm going to tell you about the time that I had a spiritual awakening, but before we get into it, check out my merch if you haven't already. You can also come follow me on my personal Instagram, Janelle Godin. You can also follow my Instagram page, 6am Society, where I speak about psychology, philosophy, and spirituality. You can also come find me on the website Fiverr if you would love to have some personal coaching, either to manifest whatever you want in life or just to navigate through your interpersonal relationships. Okay, so about a year ago, I started to meditate very often. And after a while, there came a time where what meditation does is that it gives you a lot of answers to questions that you have about yourself and your life and what you should do next, and it really puts things into perspective for you. And one day when I was meditating, I started crying because I got the answers to something. Like, I got to see one area of my life under a completely new perspective that I had never looked at in that way before, and it was about my family. I'm not going to get into details because it's extremely personal. I've only told this to like a couple of my closest friends, if not just one of them. I don't really remember who I told like which details of the story to, like how far did I go into like the details with like each person that I've told this to, but I know that nobody else other than my mom and like either one or two of my closest friends know this. But I was meditating and I started crying because I realized something about my family, but like in a good way, like it was a good thing. And it made me realize that that was the reason why I had a certain behavior, I had a certain unhealthy behavior that I did in my life that was unhealthy because I saw my family a certain way. And then one day when I was meditating, I realized that maybe I wasn't looking at it the right way. And it made me realize that I no longer needed to have that unhealthy coping mechanism, or that I no longer needed to partake in that unhealthy behavior, because like the way that I saw my family was not accurate. And yeah, it's way too personal to explain to you guys more in depth what I mean, but it's not important. And then that night I had to finish an assignment. I had like 4 hours left to finish an assignment that I hadn't done yet. And I sat down at my desk, opened up my laptop and a Word document, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I no longer have to be scared to live. Like, this is it. It was like, I was like overwhelmed with a feeling of like being capable of almost anything. And I was also overwhelmed with like a feeling of like clarity. It's like, if it's not something you've ever experienced, you're not going to know what the heck I'm talking about. But I felt like life didn't have to be hard. Like, I was overwhelmed with like a feeling, or like overwhelmed with an emotion of like knowing that life can be easy. It's like I was suddenly filled with the knowledge and the realization that you decide how easy life is going to be for you. And I know that there's exceptions to every rule. Like, I'm not speaking for people who live in poverty, and obviously life is hard for them, but that's not even what I mean by you choose how easy life is. Like, what I mean by you choose how easy life is at the end of the day, no matter what's happening to you, you still have control on what's going on in the inside of your mind, okay? And like, I'll give you guys an example. Like, my grandmother, when she was a child, she lived in poverty. And when she talks about it today, she laughs about it. Like, she was like, oh, our bed was hay, and if we peed, we had to sleep in our pee for months on end, ha ha ha. Her sister, on the other hand, when she talks about their childhood, which was in poverty, she cries. And that's what I mean by like, you decide how easy your life is. Like, you decide how you're going to perceive things. And so yeah, like I just sat down and I typed my assignment so fast, and it was like I didn't even have to think before I typed my sentences, because it was like I knew what to write. Like I just knew how to complete the assignment. Like I suddenly just knew how. It was like I had a huge mental blockage that was like taken away, or like, yeah. And then after I finally finished my assignment on time and everything, I sent it to my prof, and then I went to bed. And when I went to bed, usually when I go to bed, my mind is spinning and thinking about all sorts of things. But that night when I went to bed, I was like, I don't have to overthink anymore. Like life is easy. Life can be easy if I want it to be. So my mind immediately went blank. Like I know that I always tell you guys that when you meditate, it's impossible for your mind to completely go blank. But the only thought that I had left in my mind was, holy shit, my mind is blank. So I think that that's the closest you can get to your mind actually being blank. It was like the only thought that was still in my mind was calmly noticing, not like overly focused on it, but just kind of like being chill and like merely just noticing that my mind was blank. It wasn't like my mind is blank, my mind is blank, my mind is blank. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to explain if you've never experienced it, but it was the closest that you could possibly get to your mind being blank. And I remember being like, this is kind of scary. It's like I'm in a void. Like being in a void is scary. Like not having thoughts in your mind is scary. So I kind of got out of it for a second. I snapped out of it and started thinking about my life again. And I started to overthink about things again. And I was like, you know what? It's kind of scary, but I liked it. I want to go back. So I went back to like my mind being blank. And I was like, I literally don't need to overthink. Like I can just fall asleep now. Like life is easy. So yeah, my mind got blank again. And after like about 2 or 3 minutes of my mind being blank, I started feeling tingling sensations like on my skin, like on my arms and on my legs and in my back. And I had read somewhere, I just happened to have read somewhere like a couple days prior to that when you start feeling tingling sensations, like that's a sign that you're like connected to like your higher self, or that you're like getting there. I don't know. I don't even remember, but I just remembered that it was like a sign that I was like being meditative. So I just kind of like, when I noticed the tingling sensations too much, they kind of stopped. But when I just kind of calmly noticed them with no attachment, they increased and got more and more intense, okay? And suddenly I felt like I fell. Like I can't even explain, like my body felt more and more like it was in a void and no longer like in my bed. Like it felt like it felt like my head, I was like laying down kind of like on my side, kind of like on my stomach at the same time, you know what I mean? And suddenly it felt like I went like, it's so hard to explain. And then I started seeing more and more different colors like behind my eyelids that got more and more intense and more saturated. And then after a while, those colors turned into like a million stars, like a bunch of stars. And suddenly I felt like a big nudge that was like, and I felt like I detached from my body. Like I no longer felt my physical body. Like I just felt, I guess, my soul, my consciousness. I don't even know what to call it. To this day, I don't really even know what that was. But when I look at other YouTubers' astral projection videos, they say that it's your soul. So I guess it was my soul. And so I guess that what I experienced was my soul detaching from my body. And I knew that I wasn't inside of my physical body anymore. I knew that I was like hovering above it, okay? But I was too scared to open my eyes to look at my physical body. And I was also too scared to go anywhere. So I just kind of stayed there for a while. And I remember realizing in that moment, I had seen some astral projection videos by Aaron Dowdy before. Or had I? I don't remember if I knew. I don't remember if I already knew what astral projection was, or if I searched it up the next day and found out that that's what it was. I don't remember if I knew. Actually, I don't even think, the craziest part is that I didn't even know. Yeah, I don't think I even knew that astral projection was a thing. I didn't know what it was, and I still experienced it. Isn't that like weird? And so I eventually got scared, and so I knew that I wasn't attached to my body anymore, but I also knew that it wasn't just a dream, and I also knew that I wasn't really asleep. I was just like in a different realm. Like my soul was like in the realm. I didn't know that it was called the astral realm at the time. I didn't even know what astral projection was, but I could still kind of feel my physical body. I just couldn't move it. It was as if my body was like weighed down and like glued to my bed, and like I didn't have control of my physical body anymore, but I could still feel it. It's so hard to explain. It's so abstract, and I'm so sorry. But I remember hearing my roommate go to the bathroom, like walk from her bedroom to her bathroom, and the next day I asked her if she did, and she told me that she did. And so like, some of you are going to think that I was just asleep and dreaming. I wasn't. I wasn't. Like I lucid dreamed my whole life. I always tell you guys this, like that I've lucid dreamed my whole life. I know what a lucid dream feels like, and that wasn't it. For those of you who don't know, a lucid dream is a dream that you're aware that you're dreaming, so you can control the outcome of your dream to a certain extent. But I could make a whole separate video on lucid dreaming, because it's not the same thing as astral projection. Anyways, I stayed in the void for a while, where I was detached from my body and seeing millions of stars, and like I really got scared since I didn't know what astral projecting was. I was just kind of like, what's going on? Like, I didn't even know. I don't even remember what I thought was happening, but I eventually got scared that like an evil entity would like attack me or attach itself to my body. So that was when I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I literally felt like my soul like dropped into my body again. It felt like peck. It was so weird. It was so weird. And then I was able to move my physical body again, and then I fell asleep for real. I don't remember what dreams I had when I fell asleep after that. Like I don't remember what happened for the rest of the night. I just remember that I ended up going to bed, that I ended up sleeping. So then the next day I told that to my roommate, and her boyfriend was in her room too, and he looked at me like I was crazy, but she was kind of intrigued, but was also kind of like, what are you saying? And then I went back to my room, and I remembered that I had a book called The Mechanics of Consciousness. I literally have it in my bedroom. I'm literally going to show you guys after. And as soon as I opened the book, there's a $20 bill that was like between two pages that fell out. And I was like, what the hell? I didn't even know that I had like a $20 bill in that book. And I looked at the page pages from which like the $20 bill fell out, and it said astral projection. I'm not joking, guys. I'm not joking. And then I read what it said, and I was like, oh my God, that's literally what I experienced last night. And then I ran back to my roommate's room, and I was like, look, that's what I experienced last night. And yeah, so that was crazy. And then later that day, I went to Tim Hortons, and I thought to myself, someone's going to pay for my coffee. I get there, the man who was in front of me paid for my coffee and started to talk to me about the Matrix and the universe. I think it was the first time of my life that someone ever bought me coffee. Again, came back home, told my roommate. I was freaking out. I was like, what's happening to me? It's like, I'm like still living life, but like on steroids, like life, but like on another level. Like, what's going on? And then the next day I woke up, and I feel like some of you guys are not going to believe me. This whole thing lasted for like a week. I might have, when I'm editing this video, I might have to edit it so that it comes in 2 different parts, because I feel like I feel like the video is going to be way too long if I make it just 1 part. But anyways, let's try to make it 1 part. Okay, so the next day, I woke up in the morning and I felt like, so like, you know when you wake up in the morning and your eyes are still closed, but you're awake? And you kind of have to decide if you're going to like wake up or like try to keep sleeping. And I remember feeling like all of the furniture around me was shorter than me, which is not the case. I'm only like 5'3". But I remember feeling like I was a giant looking down at the world and at life. And I remember thinking to myself in that moment and feeling like I had the answer to every math problem in the world. Like I could do literally anything. Like I really felt powerful, and like I really saw life as a game that was easy to play at that. And I remember waking up and being extremely productive that day, and like I wasn't overthinking. My mind was really like tack, like I was so clear-minded. Like everything felt so easy and everything felt like it made sense, and I like understood life. Like I understood life and I felt powerful. And then that night, I remember being like, well, if I'm going, like I want to understand what I'm going through more. So I remember like when I went to Cuba, I met a woman who read people's auras. So I remember thinking like, could auras, like seeing auras and being able to astral project, like could all of those things be related to each other? So I Googled about auras and I read this. I remember going on this website that like talk about like how to view auras, and I like looked at my hand and ended up realizing that my aura was like green. I don't remember what a green aura means. I don't remember what a green aura meant, but I think that it said that it meant that I was grounded, and it actually made sense. And then my roommate's Evie's cat walks in my room, and then I just kind of ignore the cat because I'm focused on looking at my green aura, right? And then my roommate walks in and she's like, oh, Gypsy's her cat name, okay? She was like, oh, Gypsy found a $5 bill on your floor. And I turn around and Gypsy's smelling a $5 bill on my floor. Now, mind you, I was sitting on my floor trying to see my aura, okay? And I had never even seen the $5 bill on the floor. My room wasn't big. My bedroom in our apartment last year was quite small. So it was really weird that I hadn't noticed the $5 bill on the floor before Gypsy like walked into my room and found it and started to smell it, okay? Yeah. So, and what's even crazier is that I don't think I had listened to any money affirmations tape the night before that happened, but I definitely had listened to one of Leor Alexandra's money affirmations tapes not long before that happened. And it was like an affirmations tape that went like, money comes to me easily. I find money everywhere. I get unexpected money all the time. It was so weird. It was like I had tapped into my higher self, where like things start flowing better and life just gets easier. And okay, what else did I write down? Okay, and then I have a childhood friend. Our parents are neighbors, and she also went to Ottawa U at the time. So we both live in the city. And I remember texting her like about my actual projection experience, because I had noticed that she was posting a lot of spiritual things on her Instagram story. So I texted her to explain to her what happened. And she told me, Janelle, yesterday, I kid you not, I told my boyfriend, wow, something amazing happened to Janelle. Like she knew. Isn't it weird that my friend, who was also going through like a spiritual awakening, knew that I was too? Isn't that weird? Okay guys, that's it. That was my spiritual awakening. Some of you might ask me if my life is still kind of like this. No, that only lasted for a week. And I actually looked up some spiritual awakening YouTube videos, and everybody seems to agree that spiritual awakening isn't necessarily linear. It can be like you can have multiple spiritual awakenings in your life, and that was the only one I've ever had. Hopefully I get one again someday, and if I do, I will definitely make another YouTube video to tell you guys about my second spiritual awakening experience if it ever happens. Hopefully it will. Thank you for watching, guys. If you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you. My imagination just isn't that good, honestly. But, you know, you get to choose if you believe this story or not. Thank you for watching, guys. Thumbs up if you thought it was entertaining. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We speak about spirituality, psychology. I do vlogs sometimes. We speak about all sorts of things on this YouTube channel, even nose jobs. Okay, guys, bye.